Today will be the best day
Yes, Lord. Yes,
of
Lord.
our lives.
Yes, sir.
Amen. Amen. Things might be looking a little gloomy,
Yeah.
but today will be the best day of our lives. If you believe that, you ought to give the Lord a hand clap of praise. Truly, God is great. He's great to be praised. And His mercy will endure to all generations. Amen. Amen. Now, on Wednesday, we talked about the prayer life of Daniel.
All right.
And upon teaching the lesson, I told the class, the people that were here, I ain't throwing no shade, I'm just telling the truth. The people that were here, that y'all hear the rest of the Sunday. But our ways on his ways, our thoughts on his thoughts.
That's right. You're right.
Change that up.
Come on. Come on.
Change that up.
All of the Holy Spirit. Yeah.
Amen. I was talking to Pastor in the back. I said, Pastor, after the wedding yesterday, my wife, we went to a wedding, and after the wedding, we got home around 11 o'clock. I said, well, let me look over my notes, for in the morning. And as soon as I got into my notes, he took me a different place.
That's all right.
And then he took me a different place.
Be obedient.
He had me up
Now.
Come on.
until 5:48.
Lord have mercy.
Yeah. But I ain't gonna have y'all up. I ain't gonna have y'all alone, but I'm just saying.
Come on.
But
Let the Holy
I truly
Spirit
thank
have His
God.
way.
So, first off, giving out praise to God
Yeah.
who had in my life,
That's right.
the respect to my leader, the
Amen.
best leader on this side of the world, Pastor Bailey, amen, to his wife,
Amen.
God bless.
elect Lady Bailey, amen, Mr. Johnson, Sister Johnson, amen, to in-laws, outlaws, that you covered all, amen, to everybody in their respective places, amen, and most of all, to my rib,
Amen.
amen. Yeah. Yes, Lord. Let me see. All right. So, if y'all would turn with me to the book, to the division of Psalms.
All right.
The 30th division of Psalms. Amen. When you have it, say, I got it.
I got it.
If you don't have it, say, Lord, help me. All right. Good. Nobody say, all right. All right. Let's go. Starting with verse 1. I will extol thee, O Lord, for thou hast lifted me up, and hast not made my foes to rejoice over me. O Lord, my God, I've cried unto thee, and thou hast healed
Thank
me.
you, Lord.
O Lord, thou hast brought my soul from the grave. Thou hast kept me alive, that I should not go down to the pit. Sing unto the Lord, O saints of his, and give thanks at the remembrance of his holiness.
Yes.
For his anger endureth but a moment,
Yes,
and his
Lord.
favor is life.
Life.
Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning.
Yes.
And in my prosperity I said, I shall never be moved. Lord, by thy favor thou hast made my mountain to stand strong. Thou hast hid thy face, and I was troubled.
Yeah.
I cried unto the Lord, O Lord, unto thee, O Lord, and unto the Lord I made supplication.
Yes.
With profit, what profit is there in my blood when I go down to the pit? Shall the dust praise thee? Shall I declare thy truth? Hear, O Lord, have thy mercy upon me. Lord, be my helper.
Yeah.
Thou hast turned, this is the verse I want to pay attention to. Thou hast turned for me my mourning into dancing.
Yes.
That thou hast put off my sackcloth and girded me with gladness. Verse 12. To the end that my glory may sing praise to thee, and not be silent. O Lord my God, I will give thanks unto thee forever.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen. If I would use verse 11, the part A clause of it, said, Thou hast turned my mourning into dancing. Amen. So if I would use the title for this text today, I would show you how to be triumphant in the midst of turmoil.
All right. Come on.
How to be triumphant in the midst of turmoil. As we look at this text here this morning, I believe that some would agree with me that in life, some unbelievers and some of the people that got out of the will of God, they are suffering trouble, turmoil, danger, and disappointment. And you know, danger and disappointment, it comes as part of being the creation or the creature living in a fallen world or a fallen state of mind. But sometimes, in the case, it somehow is multiplied and magnified for the Christians. For a while, unbelievers, amen, are beset, they're plagued, they're greatly threatened and attacked by the seemingly random tragedies such as disease, disaster, pain, and persecutions, amen, anxiety and mental uneasiness. When we as believers also have an enemy by the name of Lucifer, Satan, Baphomet, and Mephistopheles, who is also always actively, amen, working to confront us with temptation, troubles, trials, and in order to disable us in our usefulness in God's kingdom.
Yes, sir.
Trials, trouble, and disappointment are inevitable.
Yeah.
So if you are here this morning and have not experienced them yet, it's only because you haven't been around long enough.
See?
Or as the seasoned saints would say, just keep on living.
Yeah.
Amen. However, while these trials, troubles, and disappointments are invariably come to our life, our defeat by them are not predestined. You ought to clap right there. But if you would do me a favor and scoot in a little closer, because I have something to say. Because not only can we survive the slings and the arrows that life and Satan throws at us, we can triumph over them. You see, the secret to being and getting through hard times and coming out on the other side of triumph involves an acquisition of virtue called endurance.
Yeah.
Amen. You see, endurance is patience. Amen. When you're under attack. Endurance is patience when you're under assault. It's the stamina, amen, in the course of tribulation. It is the great fortitude of courage in pain while you're faced in the face of opposition. If you look in the 12th chapter of Hebrews, the author likens the Christian like a race. But not like any race. You must understand, he compares the Christian life to a marathon rather than a sprint. Well, why did you say that, preacher? I'm glad you asked. You see, in a sprint, the most valued asset is raw speed. But in a marathon, the most valued attribute is endurance. So Hebrews 12:1, it admonishes us to run with endurance the race that is set before us. Amen. And knowing that troubles and trials, dangers and disappointments will come our way, we are to acquire the virtue of endurance. Not only to survive them, but, which we know counts everything, but to be triumphant over them. So the star of the story this morning is David. David knew something about troubles and danger in his life. He saw great victories like his defeat of Goliath. He was being chosen as king of Israel, and he was triumphing over God's enemies. But he also knew that great tribulation and distress, such as adultery with Bathsheba, such as the death of an infant son, and another son rising up in open rebellion against him. David experienced the highs and lows of life in fellowship with God. He died with the commemorative and the unforgettable title as a man after God's own heart. Someone here this morning is probably questioning, how did he do that? And the answer is he had endurance.
All right.
Amen. David gives us the recipe, amen, for acquiring, amen, endurance here in Psalms 30. And the song that he penned, amen, we must understand that the Psalms were worship and national songs of the people of Israel, but as many Psalms, we know little about circumstances surrounding the composition of Psalms 30.
Yeah.
But we do know that Psalms 30 is a song of dedication, amen, of the house of David.
Yeah.
Whatever the personal situation that motivated David to pen this song, we learn three key ingredients to acquiring the virtue of enduring from it. The first element of acquiring endurance that we will see through triumphing over turmoil is remembrance. Amen. David said in Psalms 30, he remembers two important truths. The first truth that God has successfully delivered him from troubles in the past.
Yeah.
And he, like Whitney Houston and C.C. Winans said in 1995 on the Way to Excel soundtrack, God was saying, count on me through thick and thin, a friendship that will never end. When you are weak, I will be strong, helping you to carry on. He said, call on me, I will be there. Don't be afraid. Please believe when I say, count on me. To do it before, I can do it again.
Yeah.
Amen. So, and the second, amen, is the difficulties don't last. Understand they're temporary.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Notice what David remembers, how God had successfully delivered him from turmoil in the past in the opening verses of Psalms 30.
All right.
He says, "O Lord, you have lifted me up," past tense.
Right.
You have brought me from the grave, past tense.
Yes, sir.
You have restored my life as I was going down in the grave, past tense. David kept in mind what you and I should keep in mind when difficult times come. If God has delivered us before from danger seen and unseen, He's the same God who can do it again. We can count on Him. We can be assured that we won't be facing these trials alone, because Romans 8:28 says these words, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God and them who are called according to His purpose. So if God before me, who can be against me? Yes, God is for His people. He's there for His people, and He's able. Amen. Now unto Him who is able to do exceeding abundantly above all can ask or think, according to the power that worketh in us. So if He did it before, He can do it again. But notice what else David remembers about life's tribulations. They're temporary. Verse 5, you have to turn out your Bible if you're not on TikTok right now, on Facebook. It says, for His anger endureth but a moment, and His favor is life. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. So when we are in the midst of difficult times, it is easy for us to give in to hopelessness and begin, amen, feeling as if our own trials will never end. Amen. Sometimes we feel like this cancer will never go away. Amen. We feel like our marital problems will never be resolved. Amen. I feel like I'll never get out of debt. But the truth of the matter is that in difficult times never last. They are transitionary. They're temporary, and they're also only for a season.
Yes, sir.
Have I got a witness? Yes, but which leads us to our natural second component of endurance to be triumphant, that is reliance. Understand, to rely on God in the midst of turmoil and disappointment means simply to trust Him for future results. You have turned my wailing into dance. You have turned my mourning into dance. You have put out the sackcloth of garments and mourning and clothed me with joy. Naturally, when we encounter rough seas and instinctively begin searching our own little bag of tricks, in our negotiating skills, or our money, or our good looks, or our ability to manipulate others for ways to get out of the storm. But we usually try everything else in our own power and strength to get us through whatever difficulties that we are experiencing. And although our own effect may work for a little while, but they will never take us to a place of real growth and change. Only trusting the Lord and not leaning out to our own understanding can do that. Amen. We have to rely on God, because Psalms 18:2 says that the Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer, my God, my rock, in whom I take refuge. My shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold. 1 Peter 5:9 said, cast all your cares on him, because he cares for you. Jeremiah 17:7 says, blessed is the man that trusteth in the Lord, who trust is the Lord. When you trust God, your faith increases, because faith is like a muscle that must be stretched and tried and employed before it can grow strong. Right. We have to come to the end of ourselves and know that at the end of ourselves, because before we can surrender to God and begin to rely on God for our ultimate good. He knows us better than we know ourselves. He wants us to be greater than we ever can imagine. There's an author, amen, by the name of Philip Yancey. He said that faith means trusting in advance what will only make sense in reverse. I'm going to say it again. Faith means trusting in advance what will only make sense in reverse. We need to have this type of faith that we will see that will see us not through tough times, but as victors over them. It is that keep on keeping on that's continuing to put that one foot forward before the other. Amen. Although we get exhausted, although we are tired, although we get bored and lonely sometimes, in the marathon race of life is what we need to have faith and relying on God will take us to the finish line. And so understand that we know that God will take us to the finish line. Amen. That's where the Lord himself be waiting on us with a crown of life. Well, I told you I won't be before you long. And the clock on the wall said that's about all. And Pastor, thank you for the opportunity. I'm making the favor. It's been fun, but I got to run. Amen. But before I bid you farewell, the third and final feature to be in Triumphant and Turmoil is rejoicing. David's Psalms was composed of rejoicing. Understand, 2 times in this particular text, amen, verse 4, David exhorts us to rejoice in the psalm. So verse 4 says, sing unto the Lord, O ye saints of his, and give thanks at the remembrance of his holiness. And the other verse is verse 12, at the end, that my glory may sing praise to thee, and not be silent. O Lord my God, I will give thanks unto thee forever. So another version says it like this, therefore my heart sings to you without ceasing. O Lord my God, I will give you thanks forever. Amen. So what we need to remember is Philippians 4:4, and rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. Rejoice with them that do rejoice. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. I will be glad and rejoice in thee. I will sing praises to thy name, O thou most high. You see, rejoicing involves praising God for who he is and giving thanks for what he has done. We extol and elevate God, amen, because he is God, and beside him there is no other. And then we are supposed to thank him publicly, proudly, for what he has done for us. Notice, notice something. There's 2 widows in the Bible. There's one in the Old Testament, there's one in the New Testament. Amen. And both of the stories, if to compare, they're strikingly similar. We have 2 widows who lost their sons to illness and death. The first account is 1 Kings 17. Amen. It was the widow Zarephath who brought her dead son to the prophet of God, Elijah. And the second account is Luke 7. It was a widow from the town of Nain following the funeral procession of her son who encountered Jesus, the Son of God. But both are initially hopeless. There is no pain in personal human experience, amen, that reveals a parent, that rivals a parent burying a child. It overturns all of our preconceived notions of how life is supposed to work. It can leave us confused in pain and searching for answers.
Yeah.
Both women received a surprise. God restored their dead sons to life, and the result was a renewed faith and rejoicing. Why I say that? Because the woman in Zarephath said, "Now I know that the word of the Lord is truth."
Yeah.
She's rejoicing. Amen. Then when the son was raised in Luke 7, amen, the people said, God has visited his people. So we see endurance requires an attitude adjustment.
Yeah.
To see our way through tough times, to be triumphant over them, means we must abandon hopelessness and despair and assume the attitude of gratitude
Right. Right.
for what God has done and will do.
Yeah.
Then the voice of praise should be lifted up for his power and his goodness and his mercy that follows all the days of our lives.
Right.
David endured tough times, and God has seen him through. The two widow women, amen, they had lost their sons to death and had seen them restored unto them alive again and had experienced inconceivable heartache, but God turned it around.
Yeah.
He turned it around and he turned their sadness into gladness.
Yeah.
Because through all the turmoil, they were triumphant. And through all the struggles they went through, they were still victorious. And they were victorious because God was on their side. Amen. Because I know the Bible says that God before me, who could be against me?
Right.
So I understand that God is the only one that can bring me out of my situation. Amen. I understand that in order in the midst of this triumph, in this midst of turmoil, I know God can bring me out.
Yeah.
Amen. I know God can bring me out because He said it in His Word. He said in His Word that He is the greatest that's in me than he is in the world. So I understand that God is able to bring me out of any situation. So whatever turmoil you're going through this morning, whatever struggle you're going through this morning, just understand that God will bring you out. God will bring you out. God will bring you out with a strong hand. God will bring you out with his right hand. Amen. Because God understands your problems. God made you. God created you. So God knows your struggles.
Yeah.
So whatever you're dealing with, whatever turmoil you're dealing with, you could be dealing with depression, and he'll bring you out of that.
Yeah.
You could be dealing with suicidal thoughts. God will bring you out of that.
Right.
You could be dealing with something such as perversion. God will bring you out of that. You could be dealing with all type of matter. You could be dealing with some type of addiction. God will bring you out of that. All I'm telling you this morning is God will bring you out no matter what you're going through.
Yeah.
All you have to do is give it up to God.
Yeah.
So what you have to do is remember where you come from.
Right.
You have to rely on God and rejoice that he brought you out.
Yeah.
Be blessed.
Amen.
Praise God.